Welcome to the Shutter Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Katie LeBoudelaire, here with my co-host, Eli Pearl. And today we have a very special guest, professional hockey player Carly Jackson.
From the little leagues
to the pros.
This is your weekly sports show.
Welcome to the Shutter Sports Podcast.
Take a seat at the table as we discuss.
On today's episode, we are going to be chatting with Carly Jackson about the PWHL experience from a fan and athlete perspective, recent growth in women's sports popularity, and more. Let's start with your history in professional hockey. For anyone that doesn't know CJ, they played minor hockey in the Maritimes, including playing for Team Nova Scotia at the Canada Winter Games, spent 5 years at the University of Maine, 3 years in the PHF, and is now rostered with PWHL Toronto. So Carly, if you want to talk about that journey a little bit, I know coming from the Maritimes, it was probably a different experience than a lot of people had here in Toronto or Ontario. And so, yeah, if you just want to talk about your journey.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I've had a really lovely career, and I'm pretty fortunate that it's still continuing and lengthening that resume a bit. But I grew up in Nova Scotia, and I actually played boys or men's hockey right up until I went to university, aside from like the short-term teams like Team Nova Scotia, Team Atlantic, Team Canada, those kinds of things. But I grew up in a small community, so it was very normal for girls to play in boys leagues because it's the only girl or very few who were in the community. But I came from a small town. They're super supportive, and I'm pretty blessed that way because I've got a lot of friends and family from when I was 12 that still follow my career now, and just a strong foundation of love that I get from home. But yeah, from Nova Scotia, I went to the University of Maine, had a phenomenal experience there. Super proud to be a Black Bear. I love that place so much. It became a second home. And then just being drafted to Buffalo out of college was a pretty special thing, and I really enjoyed living in that city for 2 years. And then coming to Toronto last year with the Six and winning a championship was one of the most special things in my life, and I'd always wanted a major championship, and we were able to have a club that was able to do it. And then now ending up back in Toronto again was a real gift because I had built a life and relationships and put down roots here in Toronto. So to be back here and now with PWHL Toronto is a pretty special thing to me.
Yeah, and so going back to your time at Maine, you set the program record for wins. I think also saves overall this season. But what we want to talk about is the most wins in the season was 17 in your sophomore year. You started 34 out of 35 games for them. Just talking about, again, your time there, you obviously did really great things for the program and had a great time there. And going from obviously playing mostly men's hockey to women's hockey there, what was that like as well?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that came from Maine for me was belief. I had a coaching staff and a team that just had a lot of faith in me as a person and as an athlete. And I was really fortunate to be able to have so much opportunity at the University of Maine, and I got a lot of games under my belt there. And it was a pretty special thing to be wearing the jersey every night and to be called in the starting lineup is something that I still think about and I still dream about, to be honest. But I think the strong belief in the people that we had at Maine was probably one of the most special things about the program, and just to gain that experience of being relied on every night was something that I had looked for when I was looking for a college program, and the coaches and the staff and the players gave me the belief right back. So it was really fun to compete for that program, and that sophomore year was a really special season where we had, we had 17 wins that year, and we had our first little run in the year before we hadn't done so hot. So it was pretty cool to start the foundation of Maine and the program, build on the foundation that they had started at Maine, and just kind of keep growing the program. We lost twice in the Hockey East semifinals to Northeastern, who are on a bit of a dynasty right now in Hockey East, but some really great games with that program, and I couldn't be prouder to be a Black Bear.
And then your senior season was cut short by COVID a little bit there. How did that affect? I know you still obviously got drafted very high in the what was then NWHL draft. How did that COVID affect your season at all or playing?
Yeah, COVID was just kind of sad. I think a lot of college athletes look forward to kind of the celebration of their careers in the spring of their final season, particularly in hockey. And I remember we had lost a 2-1 game in the semifinals to Northeastern. It was a heartbreaker. There was lots of tears. And I'm pretty sure I hadn't taken my jersey off since that game. I think we lost on a Saturday or a Sunday. And then by the Wednesday, we had this meeting at school, and we were told that we were going home, and COVID had hit, and it was just the beginning, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen. But even that span of, I think, 4 days post season, I was just so emotional and so proud, and I was wearing my jersey everywhere. I think everyone was teasing me because I wouldn't take it off, and I probably I wasn't very put together, but I was just full of love and pride for the program. So going home was really hard, and it took me a long time to mourn leaving the school so suddenly. But it was a really challenging experience, but I definitely learned a lot from it as a person, and just learning to appreciate where your feet are, and just to be grateful for the things that you have in your life right now.
Yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, right out of university, you got drafted to the Buffalo Beauties, and then they later switched leagues because there's been so many different professional women's league switches. But how was your time in Buffalo?
I love Buffalo. I think Buffalo was kind of the first taste I had of more fan exposure. Like, we had some very loyal fans in Maine, but Buffalo was kind of somewhere where I was walking into, and I was accepted with love and open arms. So it was just really encouraging to be a part of that program. And I can't say enough about how strong the fan base was during my time there. We just received so much love, and we didn't. I think in my time there, we didn't do so well in the standings. But we had loyal fans, and I think that was something that was really special, and kind of my first taste of what that was like, with building relationships with people outside of just your team, or like the people you see every day. So it kind of ignited the fire that I enjoy about hockey, is getting to connect with people who love the game as much as you do. But I really loved my time in Buffalo. I had a ball, and I was really grateful that they chose me and believed in me.
Yeah, and now, speaking about the fans, like PWHL Toronto selling out all of their games at the MAC before the season even started, like just the fans that league is attracting, and the like quality of the fans too. Like, every game is so loud, and it's just a great atmosphere. And I know you're not always down on the ice level, you're up with all the fans, you're talking to everybody. What's that like in that atmosphere?
Yeah, it's a really unique experience. So I haven't dressed this year, so typically I'll be in the stands. When we're away, sometimes it's a box situation, but at home I'm not in the seats necessarily, but I'm up kind of watching from above, and I get to interact with a lot of people, and it's a really special thing. I've met hundreds of people this year. Like, it's been really, really special. I met friends, I met new colleagues, almost like networking during games. It's amazing, but the energy in the building is undeniable, and everybody is just so happy to be there. And there's still this competitive nature of like my team versus your team, but at the end of the day, people are just so full of joy and excitement that it's contagious, and people want to be a part of it. But it's a really special thing. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody who's been around the women's hockey space, but it's also just incredibly satisfying to see how people have really taken hold and grabbed onto this product that we're putting out.
Yeah, for sure. It's blown up like crazy, and like just looking at like most of the people in the league grew up playing boys sports, and like not even, there was no minor league for women, and now it's like almost an international stage with people watching everywhere, and with the games being so accessible, the numbers are crazy. And then, speaking of numbers, your team was part of the world record-breaking attendance record in Toronto here, and you're gonna have another chance to do it in Montreal coming up in, I think, just over a week. And so what was that Toronto, like, in the Scotiabank Center experience like as well?
It was just really special. I remember texting my family and like doing pregame skate at Scotia, and I think I sent a photo to my dad or something, and he had texted me saying like, that is one of my dreams, and I'm so proud that you are able to live this life that you live. And I just remember being full of a lot of gratitude and a lot of pride that day. And then when the game actually started, it just felt, you could feel the emotion in the rink throughout the entire game, and you could feel it in the stands, you could feel it on the ice. Like, it was just something really special, and just the joy and the electricity of energy was unbelievable. So like 19,000 people in one building. It was crazy. I did the big look around quite a few times because I just wanted to take it all in. But it's such an exciting time for our sport. There's so much love and energy being directed our way, and I hope that we're giving that right back to the fans. But it's a really special thing to be on the stage that we are, and to be able to show our product so vastly.
Yeah, and talking about the energy on the ice, it seems like you guys are always matched up against Montreal, and that rivalry is just keep budding and budding, especially as you guys are at the top of the standings there. how did that rivalry start, and like, what do you know about the rivalry on the ice between you guys?
Yeah, I don't know, there's just always been a little something something of Toronto versus Montreal, right? Like just a little extra edge. I don't know. I think that rivalry always, I don't know if it stemmed from the Leafs and Canadians or what, but I mean, there's so many good teams in this league, but there's something about it, about Toronto, Montreal, that's just a little bit more like just edgy or special or something about it that makes you want to watch. So it's pretty special that we get to play in these big barns and that it's been received so well from people. Like I'm pretty stoked for the Bell Center game. I think it's gonna be electric. I'm extra excited because my family and friends are coming. So it's going to be a really special experience for them to be part of history too.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys can upset them in their own barn there, keep it rolling against them. And yeah, all these fans have really brought you some TikTok fame and some other popularity online. I know, like, I post TikToks of like the photos I took at that outdoor practice, and the ones with you in them just like blew up. Everyone's loving you online. What's that like?
Honestly, it's something I never really expected, but I totally eat it up. Like it's a lot of fun, and I have my friends, and I remember like some of my old high school buddies and family. They're sending me these TikToks or these posts that people are making of me, and I just think it's awesome. Like it's bringing more eyes to our game, and I think that's a really special thing. The more people we have that are a part of it, I think the better. And however people become fans, I think that's a really miraculous thing. But I love and receiving it has just been a huge gift, and I'm just super appreciative of the opportunity that's come about just from an online presence. But yeah, it's a pretty meaningful thing to me, and I feel very humbled.
Yeah, and you're really good at giving it back too. You're always in the comments, you're reposting. I think that really helps with the engagement there. Like fans, again, you said you want to thank them in any way, and just like always interacting with them is a great way to do that, and it's really fun from a fan perspective too.
Wicked. Yeah, it's awesome. Like it's crazy how many people you're able to connect with just over social media in a small way. And I think that I feel really grateful for the platform that I have now to do that. But yeah, love the love. I can't say enough about how much I appreciate it.
With your platform growing so much in such a small period of time and being even more of a role model to young kids and girls all throughout Canada, Toronto specifically, especially, I was just wondering what that felt like, everything happening so quickly, and just kind of PWHL blowing up and your face being out there even more.
Yeah, I'm really just trying to be grateful, and something I've always prided myself on is just being my authentic self, and just posting things that I want to post, and trying to connect with people and anything that you might vibe on or feel a connection to. And hockey has been kind of the segue to that, and I've gotten to connect with a lot of young athletes and young goalies and just a lot of people in queer spaces as well that have just been like, hey, I dig your mullet. Like now sometimes, a lot of times at rinks, and if I run into people in the streets that might recognize me, like we'll see mullets or I'll see a mullet at the rink, and we almost do like the Jeep wave where people have Jeeps and they wave. I do like the mullet nod. Like I'll see someone in the mullet, we'll make eye contact, and we'll just acknowledge each other a little bit. And I think that is probably one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me, with all the mullets I keep seeing around the rinks and the kind of just acknowledgement in between conversations. But yeah, it's been kind of crazy, honestly. I never really imagined this happening, but the social media stuff has been a lot of fun and kind of a side treat, I guess, to be able to indulge in and find a way to connect with people, because that just really matters to me.
Yeah, and always like with all that love does often come some hate sometimes, and I know like TikTok is like a big thing, especially with your team. Like Emma's always posting TikToks, everyone's out there, and I know like I eat them up, I like them, a lot of people do, but like in the comments there's always these teenage boys like, you never see the NHL doing this, and I'm like, yeah, but they don't have TikTok followers like you guys do. Like it comes both ways, and I know there's always going to be hate online, like people just love to hate women's sports for some reason, but I love the TikTok content, and I know a lot of fans do, and it's just building a better space, like better fans, better space for online presence, and I think that's like something special that came with this league.
I think, yeah, we're creating kind of a new product. Like it's the same sport, but it's our own thing. Like the PWHL is not the NHL. We are the PWHL, right? And it's really been a joy to be able to create this new space where I think with the love, it's a yin and a yang. You're also going to get some hate here and there. But it's just prioritizing, I think, what serves you, what matters to you, what connects with you. And the negative stuff is just, it comes in one ear and out the other, I think. And I think what we really grab onto is all the love we're receiving. And I think that that's contagious. So the more we give it out, the more we give it back. It's just exponentially growing. I think it's a really special thing.
Yeah, for sure. And then going back to, you said you haven't dressed with Toronto yet this season, and you tried out, like it was an open tryout for Toronto. What was that experience like, different from you were drafted to Buffalo and then you had to try out for Toronto? What was the difference there?
Yeah, so I had a pretty unique experience this past year. So last season, after we had won the Isabel Cup, which was the former championship for the PHF, I had been signed really quickly, which was like this huge relief because in pro sports, it's a pretty inconsistent lifestyle at times because typically you don't know where you're playing the following year, and you have to be really uncomfortable being in the unknown. So it was super nice being signed early, but then with the inaugural season of the PWHL coming out, that contract was voided, and then it was kind of like starting from square one again. So I went undrafted for the inaugural draft, and then I was invited to camp for PWHL Toronto, trying out for that third goaltender spot. And I mourned the PHF when I found out the news for about, I think, a week or 2 weeks, where I just wanted to acknowledge and really live and sit in all of my feelings that I had for that league and what it brought to my life. And then I just kind of grinded and went back to skating almost every day in the gym all the time, and putting everything I could into my hockey career, not knowing what might come. So then when I got invited to come to camp and try out, I was just super grateful. I knew the chances of me being back in Toronto were kind of slim, just in terms of you could end up at any team anywhere. So when I knew it was Toronto, there was something kind of in my gut that was like, this is meant to be. And I just showed up to camp with just a heart full of love and gratitude to have an opportunity, and was able to earn that spot. It was a hard emotional experience, just I think living in that unknown, but there was a few signs along the way that just felt so right. And then when I found out I had made the team, I was pretty happy. I called my parents and I cried a little, and I actually try to remember that moment pretty frequently to keep me grounded and to just be coming from a place of love and gratitude.
Yeah, and you said you really wanted to stay in the city. What is it about Toronto that you really like?
I think just the people, and the more I'm getting to know it, the food is pretty outstanding. But just putting down roots and the people that live here and have such strong ties in the community. And I still have friends from the Toronto Six, and I have like a billet family that I lived with last season. So I would pay rent, but I essentially moved in with this young family and lived with them and became a part of the family and played hockey. And it was a good way for me to be able to live here during the winter and play hockey. And anyway, so I moved closer to this rink this year, so I don't live with them anymore, but I still go over every Sunday for dinner. And I think it's just a really special thing that I have in the city here between friends and new family and just the experience of Toronto. I really love this city, and I'm very happy to be here.
I've now got to ask, what are some of your favorite eats in the city, now that you brought up food?
Yeah, I've been doing CC's Pizza. I think it's on Queen Street. And then I've been doing King's Pizza out in Mississauga, and I love pizza.
You gotta try near the Mac. There's where'd we go, Eli?
North of Brooklyn.
North of Brooklyn.
North of Brooklyn? Okay. I'll write that down.
I think that's all we have about PWHL Toronto. If we want to talk a little baseball now. Not everyone might know this, but you are a dual sport athlete for a long time, playing high-level baseball along with hockey. And I know you've said before it helped your glove hand, because obviously you're wearing a glove in baseball. What was it like growing up playing two sports? I know I played a bunch of sports growing up. It was a hard balance, but playing two sports at such a high level, what was that like?
Yeah, it honestly was probably the best thing for my brain. I think I'm just hardwired to play. I just love playing games. I love being outdoors. I love competing. I think it's just a huge part of my personality. So when I wasn't in the rink in the winters, I've been on a baseball diamond. And it's been it's probably been the life that I imagined for myself when I was a kid, a small kid. where I pretty much just in the summertime I go and I play baseball, I teach baseball, and then in the wintertime I play hockey and I teach hockey. So I've been very fortunate. I've been able to be around athletics for a very long time. But I love playing ball in the summer. It's such a mental break from sometimes the grind of hockey. There's so much joy in hockey, but it's definitely more of a stoic, serious game, and especially in goaltending because it's a very isolated position. Whereas in baseball, you're kind of outside, you're chewing bubblegum with your friends, like you're joking around, and it's a little bit more lighthearted between plays comparatively to hockey. So it's just kind of a nice mental break. Like I joke sometimes and say that it's relaxing, and it is, but it's also very high level competition, and I learn all these tools in baseball because I'm also a pitcher, and I kind of like being in those pressure situations. I like having control over the outcome of the game, and I think that's probably why I like pitching so much. But I use tools that I learn in baseball and apply them to hockey and vice versa. So it's been this really nice balance of using these new tools and developing different skills and applying them across both sports.
Yeah, no, there's something about being outside in the summer, spits, just like it's a good break, especially it's such a long game. You have time, you have those action moments and those high pressure moments, and then you also get to chill a little bit, which is nice. But yeah, they also say like baseball is one of the most transferable sports. Like you learn so many different skills, hand-eye, glove, like, and again that focus, and it's just always a really good time. And then one thing is on the topic of like growing women's sports. I'd say baseball is probably the biggest disparity we've seen between men's and women's sports. Now, like WNBA, college basketball is going crazy for women, and PWHL is obviously doing really well. But then there's no really path for baseball or softball in that area. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think everything takes time. I know that in my experience, women's baseball has grown a lot. I wouldn't say as fast as hockey, but grown a lot in my lifetime. I grew up in Amherst, Nova Scotia, and when I was growing up, I think there was maybe two other girls in our for our baseball program in our community who played either a year or 2 years here and there, and then I had played all the way through. But it wasn't super supported or encouraged, or there was always kind of a stigma of like girls don't really play baseball, they play softball maybe, or they don't play at all. And now actually in our community of Amherst, we have an entire women's league for 12 and under. And I think last year we had 34 girls registered. And that's just in one small town. So let alone, I played for Team Nova Scotia. I've been the captain of our senior women's team for the past 3 years. And the talent that we have coming up is unbelievable. Like we have kids who are 15, 16 playing on this team, and they're throwing 70 miles an hour plus. And I just am blown away. And, I'm now 26, so some of these kids are not half my age, but pretty darn close. And the talent level that is coming up from opportunity for young girls in sport is pretty astounding. So I think the game of baseball is going to continue to grow. There's some really, really amazing kids that are coming up and finding some love and finding themselves within the sport. And it's super special. But women's baseball has grown so much in my experience, and it's really fun to watch. So if you're ever able to catch a game, particularly one of the provincial teams, I would recommend going. It's a ball, it's all heart, and there's a lot of really amazing athletes.
I know growing up playing baseball, there's a certain age where we see a lot. We had girls in our league, and then there's a certain age where they all felt sort of a push towards softball. And I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on that? Because obviously anybody can play any sport. There's always still that competitive edge. But what do you think sort of causes that push into softball?
Yeah, I think for a long time, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong about this, but I think there was almost always softball is for girls and baseball is for boys, which is completely untrue. Like either or, whether you're a man and want to play softball or a girl and wants to play baseball, like sport's a sport. The rules are similar, but they're different. So it's like whatever you prefer is what you should do and what you want to do. But I generally think that there's a stigma, and I think there's some studies out that a lot of girls stop playing sports when they hit preteen, teenage, and they're kind of either, just pushed to the side or whatever. But I think that's why it's so important to have strong role models who are inclusive. And even if you want to pick up the sport when you're 13, 14, you should be able to with open arms, right? And I just think there's so much power in being part of a team and part of something that's bigger than yourself. You gain confidence You can make friends, and I think you learn a lot about who you are as a person, because to me, sports are a version of self-expression. And so I think how you compete is a direct reflection of your own character. So to give kids an opportunity to be in that space and to figure out who they want to be and what kind of teammate they're going to be is instrumental in creating strong communities and good people. So I think you should be able to play whatever sport you want, and we should provide opportunity to anybody who wants to play.
Definitely. And then growing up playing the two, when did you kind of like focus? I guess you're still playing both, but did you ever like going to Maine have to focus more on hockey, or like when did that shift kind of happen?
Yeah, it was funny. I actually started playing baseball a lot sooner than I started playing hockey. So I was kind of born a baseball player, and then had taken on hockey, I think, when I was 9 or 10 years old, and been playing ball since I think I was 4 or 5. I was very young. And when I was really little, I was arguably a way better baseball player than I was a hockey player. But there wasn't as much opportunity in ball. So I knew at one point that I had some sort of like knack for hockey or knack for sports, and I just loved it so much. Like I loved being on the ice. I loved competing. And there's like some other side of me. I think the season was longer, and maybe that's why I was more enticed to really drive down the hockey route. But I did know that there was opportunity. I knew that I could potentially get a scholarship to college and be able to play into my 20s. And now I'm playing pro, but had the opportunity existed in baseball, I'm not entirely sure which one I would have chosen. But I've been really grateful that I've been able to continue to play ball at a high level while still focusing on my hockey career. There's been a few times where a few people might have been like, oh, you probably shouldn't play anymore. But to me, baseball is a big part of who I am. And maybe at some point I'll have to stop to just keep everything going with hockey. And if that's the case, that's quite all right with me. But I would like to keep doing it as long as I possibly can, because I think it's a big reason why I've been so successful in hockey.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, it's a nice break. Like in the summer, you don't always have to be. I think it makes you a better hockey player if you're not always focused on that. And you take those breaks and keeps your skills sharp with your glove hand and hand-eye coordination. So.
Oh, sorry. I just said, yeah, it's super playful, right? You learn. I find that like I'm an infielder too, so I find particularly playing the infield is very interesting, because in goaltending you're trying to stop pucks, and when you're infielding, you're essentially trying to stop balls in a different way with a lot less gear. So you get to develop some of those maybe quirky maneuvers or creative thinking in ball too that sometimes plays over to hockey, especially with the glove hand. But yeah, it's a fun sport to balance the hockey stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure. And being in Toronto, have you gotten any Jays games yet? Or are you going to?
Oh, I have. I love going to Jays games, and it's funny. I don't think people like going with me as much, because I just want to go and watch the game. Like I'm not very social. I'm usually quiet because I'm dialed, and I just want to watch. I just want to watch the techniques. I like watching the guys and their pre at bat routines and like all of their stuff. So I'm super dialed the whole time, and I usually don't want to socialize, but I love Jays games. I love watching baseball. I'm just this massive fan, and I'm excited to get out to some this spring.
For sure. You gotta try. There's some new foods at the ballpark. I recommend the Orange Crush float. Really good.
Oh yeah, I love their Toonie dogs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I need to get out to some Looney Dog.
Yeah, this is now my 4th game of the week today that I've already been to.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, the atmosphere's been great so far. I'm like you, I like being just straight into the game. The bleachers section, I don't know if you've had a chance to sit there yet, but it's sort of the general admission section, and you're right in front of the opposing team's bullpen. So I always find that interesting, getting in, looking at their routines, how they're getting up so quickly to get their arms ready. I played baseball growing up. I still play. I'm usually a starter, so being able to know when I have to go into the game, being able to warm up my arm and taking my time. So I always find it interesting watching them go so quickly. But I liked what you were saying about just being in the game, because sometimes the people around me, they're just saying things, and I'm a bit of a baseball nut, and I hear just the wrong thing come out of their mouth, and it drives me crazy. But as a professional athlete, hearing other people just talk about your craft, sort of, and even them saying something completely wrong, how does that make you feel? Do you try to correct them, or do you just kind of let it go in ear and out the other?
I like that question. I usually just try to be really patient with it, because it's people being part of the game. So someone saying it, like, I think the classic is the fans yell, or like, I don't know, the person just being like, shoot, and it's like, and I have a very different perspective because on the team and I know the systems and I know kind of some of the strategy, but just that, like, I find that one is it just, I love it because you have people who are being fans, right? Whether they're right or wrong about whatever, I think the whole fan experience is having an opinion and being really passionate about it. So I eat it up. I love it. I think it's all about it's all a part of the growth. And I'm not usually one to correct. I think the whole point of sport is also your own interpretation of strategy and how to win. And I think that's the fun part. So I like hearing stuff that fans have to say. It's fun sometimes being in the crowd and you overhear conversations about the play, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't really think about it that way, and I can kind of get my own mind going on something or a perspective I didn't see before. So I love it. I think it's part of the experience, and I think it's fantastic that we have people that love our game so much.
For sure.
No, the shoot, especially when they're in like the 300s and no one can hear them. It's like you're not helping. I'm just trying to enjoy the game, and you're like, shoot. I'm like, they can't hear you. Yeah, that wraps up about all the questions we have for you today. Is there anything else that people should know about their favorite professional women's hockey player / TikTok star? Or
Thanks. I'm just super happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. I guess if I had to leave everybody with a message, I'd say live your life with kindness and maybe go out of your way to do something nice for somebody today. Just live your life from a perspective of love and gratitude, and I think you'll live a pretty happy one. And thanks for all the love.
amazing. All right, that wraps it up. So thank you for joining us on the Shutter Sports podcast. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you find your podcast, and don't be shy to join the discussion on any platform at Shutter Sports Media. Until next time, I'm Katie LeBoudelaire, joined by Eli Pro.